Here in New Hampshire, covering the New Hampshire primary. Honored to talk to Michael Steele, former chair of the RNC, current MSNBC analyst. How are you, sir?
Good, doing well. How's it going?
He's doing very well. How do you feel about this process? How do you feel about today? How do you feel about the chances of the Republicans beating Barack Obama?
Well, I think, starting with the last question, I think the chances are very good. Now, the process has been a little bit unsettled up till now, which actually is not bad. I'm not that turned off by that. I think, look, we designed a system in this primary process that to elongate it, to give candidates who don't come in flushed with cash a real opportunity to deliver their message, and I think we've seen that. I think that's why you've seen the kind of up and downs in the polling. The base ultimately is going to be the final decider in this situation, to use a George Bush word there. But I think the reality is, until they make that final decision of who they're going to consolidate behind, we get to play along in the game, and we get to see these candidates have to deal with the uncertainty of this primary process, and I think so far they've done pretty well.
Mr. Steele, you've been in this game a long time, but we saw a story.
Does it show?
No, not at all, not at all. But we saw a story yesterday where Mrs. Ron Paul was jostled by the press, told "get out of my way." Mr. and Mrs. Santorum were pushed around by occupiers at another event. Is it getting more coarse on the road? What's going on in 2012?
I don't know. I don't know about whether it's getting more coarse. I think that you get to a point where everybody gets a little tired. They need to catch their breath. I think the break between New Hampshire and South Carolina will allow for that to happen a bit. Folks get resettled and focus on the next stretch here. I mean, there was a long run-up to Iowa and New Hampshire. And so now you're in it. It's full speed. And I think when you get to South Carolina and on the way to South Carolina, things kind of get a different pace to them. Coming out of here, the numbers are going to matter and sort of setting the stage for South Carolina and Florida. So I think folks will settle down a little bit and it'll be okay. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of people who are serious about making their points, and I'm just talking to citizens, not the candidates. And so people want to be heard, and they want to make sure these candidates know how they feel, and that's part of the give and take in this process as well.
We have Occupy New Hampshire right across the street. What is your take on Occupy?
Well, I met with some of the folks from Occupy last night, and as I said to them, don't let your energy, your movement, your message get hijacked by those who have an agenda that is not focused on reining in what is an out-of-control relationship between politics and money, putting government in its proper place and in that mix. And empowering citizens, which is a very powerful message. And I told them, I said, there are a number of linkages between the Tea Party movement and the essence of Occupy, and it represents an energy that's coming from people that elected officials, whether they're state and local or national figures, have to pay attention to. And you can't be sort of on the sidelines in this debate. And I think that's good. I think it's very healthy. When it gets stupid, where you get into the violence and the arrests and the damage to property, you're not being serious anymore. You're not going to be taken serious by the American people. They will shoot you out the door in a heartbeat. So if they want to stay a part of this process and they want to have their voice in the room when the votes are being made and the decisions are being taken there, I think that they need to stay focused on the core of why they started and what this fight was about from the very beginning.
Last question. What is your take on the Fast and Furious debacle and what's going on in the Justice Department?
That?
Your take on the Fast and Furious debacle and what's going on in the Justice Department?
I think that's an appropriate description of it, debacle. I mean, I think, the left hand clearly knows what the right hand is doing but doesn't want to talk about it. And I think this is a situation where the administration is going to have to come very clean, particularly starting with, Director Holder, and making sure that we understand all the facts, what you knew when you knew it, what decisions were made, and why the program was continued, and why there weren't the number of controls in place to make sure you could effectively and efficiently track those weapons. To have the loss of life of one of our guys on the front lines like that, basically by our own hand, is just not only astounding, but it's offensive, and I think a lot of people want to get to the bottom of it. And keeping something like that above the politics of a presidential campaign, I think, is incredibly important because there's a legitimate concern there, and I think, again, for the families that are involved and for the integrity of our Justice Department, they need to be straight up about it and take whatever lumps come with that because there are some lumps that should be taken.
Michael Steele, thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. Take care of yourself.